Our guest today is a hip hop legend with an improbable story. Raised by teenage parents in an economically destitute area of eastern Connecticut, App Bromley, better known as Apathy, grew up obsessed with rap and hip hop. App started his MC journey at the age of 15 by traveling to New York City for rap battles and ciphers, trying to make it as a white rapper before Eminem. Apathy quickly made a name for himself with incredible skills as a battle rapper, almost got him shot and killed one night at the famous Fever nightclub in the Bronx. After escaping death that night, he continued his journey as an MC and became an independent recording artist, making his first appearance on the debut album from Jedi Mind Tricks. The rest, as they say, is history. Since that time, Apathy has toured the world as an independent artist and has worked with some of the biggest labels and hip-hop artists of all time, such as DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Pharoah Monch, Nas, Snoop Dogg, Linkin Park, Busta Rhymes, and many, many more. Apathy continues to have a huge following all over the globe, but most recently has began a career as a top producing real estate agent while at the same time releasing critically acclaimed hip hop albums. This is going to be a fun one. App, my brother, welcome to the Run GPG podcast.
Yo, I'm so happy to be here right now, man. I'm really pumped. This is one of the podcasts that I actually really listen to and love, so I'm very excited to be on this.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. I was telling you a few days ago that your bio and your life may be one of the most unique and interesting I've ever read. You've been through some stuff, brother, right? So I heard Ben Baller recently call himself the Forrest Gump of hip hop, which I think might actually be a perfect label for you. However, I would definitely call you the Forrest Gump of real estate now, which we'll talk about eventually.
Funny? I used to hang out with Ben Baller in LA.
Oh, wow. Okay. Small world. You did have an amazing career in hip hop. But first, I want to get a bit more of the App Bromley story. So take us back to the beginning. Where are you from? Where did you grow up? And how did your journey in hip hop begin?
Connecticut is a state where the first thing that people think when they hear Connecticut is they think affluent, rich, one percenter, what's his name? The late night show host, David Letterman lives out here. I think Kenny G lives out here and, all these different people. So people think like this rich, affluent, one percenter. A majority of Connecticut is just not like that. And the areas that are rich are the smaller percentage. And most of Connecticut, a lot of Connecticut was old school textile towns. They had thread mills and they had textiles and all of these different things. When all those things went out of business, everybody was poor, and so there's a lot of poor areas, and where there's poor areas, crazy shit happens. And also these cities like New Britain, New Haven, Bridgeport, Hartford, obviously, all of those areas are crazy. So they're very crazy areas. So people have this misconception of Connecticut, like it's really super nice, and it's actually a wild place in a lot of different places. And when I grew up in a town called Willimantic, Connecticut. And it was one of those places that was economically destitute. My parents were teenagers when they had me, very intelligent people, but we grew up tough. We grew up welfare government cheese. And my whole family, they kind of grew up very blue collar, working class. And that's what it was. So I remember back as far as being a little kid, and my father, we had a radio show here, a college radio show, and they would play hip hop. They would play, Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick and all of these different things. And my father was cool as man. He would stay up and tape these shows with me. He would listen to hip hop. He would appreciate the lyrics with me. It wasn't one of those things where he tried to scold me and, tell me whatever. So he would go through that process with me. I remember he would stay up with me with the little boombox, and he'd flip the tape when, the tape was getting to the end, and I'd fall asleep because the show would run late. So he would stay up and tape the whole thing for me. So that was pretty cool, man. My uncle had a lot of hip hop 45s. He was breakdance and all that. So I grew up when hip hop was at its infancy and watching that take form.
Yeah. So that leads to my next question, which was, what were your early influences in music? Like what hip hop albums did you grow up listening to, or did you even?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I grew up with a lot of stuff too, like classic rock. And, that's my family was really big into classic rock. But hip hop wise, I remember the first thing that I remember hearing is Shaka Khan and Melly Mel, I Feel For You. And I remember the intro, you know, him coming in, Shaka Khan, let me rock it, Shaka Khan. And I was like, oh, what is this? You know what I mean? And so I was so enamored with it and I was so in love with it that I would walk around the house and be rapping those lyrics, but I'd change the lyrics. I'd be like, give me some chicken soup and the you know what I'm saying? And I would do what's the equivalent of freestyling, but as a little kid, I had, 4, 5, 6 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. So, that's where I fell in love with it. That's where I decided that, rapping was something that was in the cards for me. I didn't take it seriously though, until like the 90s. That's when I started writing my verses down and going really hard. But yeah, growing up, my influences were definitely Run DMC, originally Beastie Boys and Run DMC. I have super emotional attachments to. My father got me both of those tapes. My father had a big work van. It was this big light blue work van where he would, he did carpet installation and we would drive around and it was so cool. I remember summertime bumping the Beastie Boys and my dad turning it up loud and EQing it so it would bump. And I just felt like the coolest kid in the world, So when it's summertime and I'm driving around, those are things that make me think of my father and how cool he was. But, as far as growing up, Eric B. and Rakim, Public Enemy, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, Jungle Brothers, all of those, that's originally what I started out with.
And how did your journey in hip hop begin specifically? Like, did you start as an MC right away, freestyling, or were you involved in another part of the culture? I find sometimes like artists, like, they're musicians, they're rappers, they're MCs, but they were graph writers or they were B-boys or something else. Like, did you jump right in as a MC?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I started out when I was starting to heavily participate, not just be a fan, but when I was starting to participate and write my own rhymes, I was mostly an MC. But during this time period, the late 80s, early 90s, it wasn't uncommon for you to live the culture and do multiple things. Like I was graph writing, I was running with graph writers, and it wasn't uncommon to do multiple things. I could DJ a little bit, and it was pretty common to do all of the elements because we were so in love with it and we were so starved for it and repped it so hard. And it was like a religion to us that we would do all of those elements. But MCing is totally what my thing was. I would sit and read the dictionary and I would kill myself writing verses and listening to the guys who blew my mind. And that is what I set the bar for. That's what I strive for.
Yeah, I love that. And you touched on it. Like, what were those early years like for you? As you mentioned, you were trying to make a name as a white rapper before Eminem. So what was it like trying to establish a name and a reputation then?
Well, when I grew up around a lot of Black kids, a lot of Puerto Rican kids. So nothing was weird to me. Nothing was different because we all knew each other from growing up. So matter of fact, I didn't even know I wasn't allowed to say the N-word until like the year 1993 because I was called that all my life because I grew up on a block with mostly Black families who are also integrated into my family as well through cousins and stuff like that. So I didn't really know that it wasn't cool to be a white rapper at that point. I grew up listening to pro-Black rap and being very cognitive of racism and systemic oppression, even at a young age, because that is the rap that I grew up listening to, the X-Clans, the Public Enemies. So I was aware of what was going on at that time. But I didn't realize that it applied to me because my alikes, for the most part, weren't really white people. That's not who I was with. That wasn't my peer group. So I didn't really understand that. And when I started getting into the scene and going out to places where people didn't necessarily know me super well, that's when I started feeling it. When we started traveling to New York to go in ciphers, that's when I started feeling it. And that's when I was like, oh, damn, okay, I gotta watch what I'm doing and step lightly and pay attention to the way I carry myself, and I remember the first time that I was on radio was at WHUS 91.7 in Storrs, Connecticut, which is the University of Connecticut campus. Back in around 1993 at the University of Connecticut, which is in, Storrs, Connecticut, my mentor, a guy who ended up becoming my mentor, DJ Boogie, Rockman Abdullah, he had me on his show and they were like big brothers. I was still like a little punk kid. And they were older than me, and they had me come up to their show, and they had me rhyme over a Tribe Called Quest award tour. So I'm sitting there spitting, and I'm dropping M-bombs because, you know, once again, I didn't know that that was a bad thing for me to do. Even though I grew up listening to pro-black rap, I still didn't think it applied to me to not say that word or that it would offend somebody. So when I did, it was like stereotypical record, needle off the record, skirt, you know what I mean? And they went to commercial, they went to music break, and DJ Boogie was like, do you know what you're saying? Do you know what that word means? Do you know what this is about? Blah, 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 blah. And he schooled me. He did me a great service by bringing that to my attention and schooling me, and probably saved me quite a few ass whoopings along the way. And so I'm forever indebted. And he became a great friend to me and a mentor to me. And he's a great guy. But after that, going to these ciphers in New York is where I really started establishing who I am in the path that I was taking.
Interesting story. Now, that leads to the next question I'm about to ask you, which is, you know, you ended up making a name for yourself in these battles, ciphers, and that led to a near-death experience in the Bronx one night. Like, what happened that night?
Yeah. So we were always hungry to go out and do hip hop. And like, once again, nowadays it's tough to imagine, because nowadays everybody is a rapper. Everybody has songs, everybody has Spotify, everybody has an artist page. So it's tough to think of a world where everybody was not a rapper or an MC. And you were like a Jedi Knight back in the days, you know what I'm saying? Because you were special. When you walked into the party and people knew you had a name and knew who you were, people were like, oh, damn, here comes blah, blah, blah. He might rock the mic tonight. You know what I mean? It was a big deal. So we went to New York. We were always trying to go out in different neighborhoods and connect with different people and find different ciphers. We would just go out there without a plan. I mean, we would go out there, rock ciphers, and then not be able to go home because of Metro North stopped after a certain point. So we would literally ride the subway all night long and just pass out occasionally here and there with our backpacks tucked behind us. We would sleep on the subway. And so one night we went out to the Bronx to the classic club, the Disco Fever. And that's a legendary club in the Bronx. Something was going on there. I don't remember what it was, but it was me, Mike, and this dude named Etc. that we used to roll with. Etc. was from Harlem. And we went out there, and I remember everything. Like, even we knew we wanted to get in the club, so we stashed our pokers. We had little knives. We always carried little pokers in our pocket. So we stashed them over by these bushes, and then we start walking and we see a cipher out in front of Disco Fever. So we go over to the cipher, we're listening to everybody, and me and Mike are white. Mike looked like he's Puerto Rican or something, and Etc. is a black dude. So we go in there, and I'm like a white kid going in, and I'm starting to rap. Everybody else is rapping, so I'm starting to rap too. And I'm killing it. I'm saying lyrical that they probably weren't used to white dudes doing, because prior to Eminem, their frame of reference was what? Vanilla Ice, Third Base, Beastie Boys. So it was a different thing at that point in time. So I'm spitting really ultra lyrical stuff and really aggressive battle-y stuff. And these dudes were getting furious. Some of them were entertained by it, but this one dude, his boys were like egging him on. They're like, yo, this white boy's killing you, bro. This white boy's roasting you. And this dude is getting angry, and I'm seeing it. And then he lifts up his shirt, and he's got a little revolver. I'll never forget. I saw the little revolver in his waistband. And he was like, yo, I'm about to set it. I'm about to set it. And he's like pulling for his gun. And my man Open Mike thought he meant lyrics. He thought he was going to set it with rap. So Mike goes, yo, it, set it then, bro. What are you waiting for? Set it. And I'm like, shut the up. So my man, Etc. grabs us both. We literally run into this bodega. We run into the front side of the bodega, and we bounce out the side of the bodega. And then we're running to the train like the movie The Warriors, where they're running away from the Turnbull ACs. So we run to the train, we get in there, and I tell Mike the story, and Mike's like, oh, damn, for real? I didn't even know. But yeah, man, we left our pokers behind in the and all that, you know, we just had to get out of there. But that was a crazy time, man. New York was a really wild time. It's tough to explain. People think about New York in the 90s, and they're like, oh, yeah, cool, Wu-Tang Clan, Biggie Smalls. Nah, New York was wild and dark and creepy back in the 90s. Dead ass. It was a different energy and a different vibe back then.
And I kind of miss the dirty New York of the 80s personally.
Right.
I miss that.
Right.
Where did the name Apathy come from?
Apathy came from my father was a very deep dude. My father was like the white version of Furious Styles. So when I was a teenager, I left my mom's to go live with my dad because I was getting in trouble. And my dad would go for walks with me. And he would talk to me about everything. And we had one conversation and I was like, I don't love that. I hate it. And he said, well, hate isn't the opposite of love. Apathy is. And I said, what is that? He said, go look it up. That was his thing. He told me to go look it up in the dictionary. So I went into the dictionary, looked it up. And the word was crazy to me because I really tried to think about what that word meant. And it kind of stuck with me. And I took the name on for two reasons. A, because I wanted to bring attention to the word, because now the word's popular. It wasn't popular back in the day. Number two, it was a play on words of me being a young MC saying, I'm not feeling. So that was one of the reasons as well. But those are the two reasons primarily that I took it on.
Well, it is unique and it's memorable. So that's good. Now, you did eventually make your debut on a Jedi Mind Tricks album, which is crazy to think about. I can't think of a cooler way, to break into the then on a Jedi Mind Tricks album. I mean, they were cool amongst the underground, but they were still, respected by the mainstream too. I mean, it was the perfect mix there. So can you tell us how that happened? And then from there, how your career developed?
Right. That radio station that I told you about before, I became a staff member there as a teenager and I had my own show. And one day the vinyl for their EP came out. It was called the Amber Probe EP. And I get this vinyl and I put this vinyl on and I hear these guys rapping about this real esoteric metaphysical stuff, which is what me and my crew were rapping about at that time too. And we thought we were the only ones. We were really surprised to hear anybody else doing this. So he had an email on the vinyl, right? That was the only method of contact. So I wrote to him and we started talking on the phone. And I'm talking about Vinny Paz of Jedi Mind Tricks. We started chopping it up on the phone and talking all the time. And we would rap for each other. And then at one point he was like, yo, listen, we're recording the LP. You should come down. I want to get you on this record. Take a train down to Philly and come down here. So, and at that time I was dating a Canadian MC named Eternia, who is pretty well known. And I dated her when she was like 17, 18. She was a year younger than me. So she was super young, but she came to live with me for a while in Connecticut. And we took a train down to Philly and we went out there and started recording with Paz and we did 3 songs and we were rocking in the producer's house. His name is Stoop, the enemy of mankind. And I remember it being like 1,000,000 degrees in there. And I remember Stoop's sister, his older sister, was furious that we were there for some reason. She just like wasn't feeling us. So the whole vibe was messed up and we're sitting there trying to record in the bedroom. And it was just really crazy, man. But we had a lot of fun. We were out in Love Park in Philly with all these professional skateboarders. So that's how it happened, man. And I ended up on 3 songs on that album. And it was unbelievable, the rush that I got when I saw the vinyl come out and I was actually on vinyl. Like it was beyond explanation. It was just super crazy, man. I can't even explain how incredible that was to me at that point.
That's awesome. Well, what a cool way to make a debut. Like I said, I think everybody who had some knowledge of hip hop at the time or were into it, thought Jedi Mind Tricks was like the coolest, and it was an interesting time in the history of hip hop at that time, because it wasn't it was starting to become a little bit more mainstream, but I think corporations and record labels were starting to see the popularity of hip hop exploding. And that's why there was so many mainstream collaborations at that time during that decade. You signed to Atlantic Records and so on. Is that how you saw it? That was like kind of the apex of when things started to really, explode for hip hop at that time.
Well, here's the thing. The interesting thing is towards the end of the 90s, it started to happen. Actually, I'll even give it more credit than that. It was like mid 90s to the end of the 90s. We had something called the indie boom. and the indie boom was all of these independent artists. We were trying to emulate our heroes, you know, the Digging in the Crates, the Wu-Tangs, the Boot Camp Clicks, all the MCs. We wanted to do what they were doing, our big brothers. So we started to put out records ourselves, and we started linking up with independent labels, and they started selling. It took off. Like college radio was a big proponent of that, and college radio helped excel that and propagate our music. And it just really blew up. So, you know, guys like us who are young, we're sitting there, we would give a record label 2 songs, right? A side, B side, and there would be the clean, instrumental, dirty, you know, a cappella, and same thing on the B side. They would advance us like teenagers, like $5,000 to $10,000 for one of those singles. And then we also had friends who would do it themselves and make all the money themselves. But it was like, this is crazy. It was a whole new world for us, because we're like, yo, what? We would have done this for free. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have given us anything. We were so stupid and just excited to get the props and get the acknowledgement and get the place in history that we would have done it for anything. And these labels started to come out and pay us. And then they started to pay us for shows. I'll never forget when I won my first battle, and they gave me $400 for a battle I won in Rhode Island. And I was like, oh, I tried to play it cool. But then I remember getting in the car and being like, yo, this is Christ, $400 for, I would have done this for free. I would have paid to get here and do this. So it was wild at that point, during that indie boom. And that's what started to happen with the independent market. That's why we kind of started to flourish at that point in time. And then later, the majors started viewing us as a pool of talent to start drawing from. So some of us came out of that, you know, some of us got deals. I got a deal. I got signed at the same time, around the time that Little Brother got signed. We were label mates. Me and Lupe Fiasco were label mates. We came up together. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a whole bunch of us who got that attention. And, you know, we always had that as a goal in mind, to get signed to a major, because we thought we were going to change the world. We had the noble idea of, damn, bro, I'm going to get signed to a major and I'm going to make the next Illmatic. I'm going to have Premiere on there. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make the most classic hip hop and bring hip hop back. You know what I'm saying? And that's not how it went. Once these A&Rs got their meat hooks in us, we were just, you know, we were lost, bro. Like, it was crazy, the stuff that they wanted us to do, the stuff that they had us do, and the stuff that I wouldn't go for, you know?
So you had a really interesting solo career, but you also had like mad collaborations and guest appearances. What does your creative process look like? Like, do you think of words and phrases and write them down as they come to you? Or do you start with a beat? What does that process look like?
It's always different. I don't have a formula. Like, other people have formulas. I'll write a verse first sometimes, and I'll have a verse that I hold on to for 7 years, and then find the right fit for it later one day and be like, oh, damn, you know what? This verse would be good for this. Then there's times where I sit down with the beat. Then there's times where I've written songs and they wrote themselves so fast. I swear to God, it was some cosmic connection, and it just wrote itself. I have this song called Check the Check, which is one of my biggest songs. It's produced by Evidence. And I don't even remember writing that song. That song literally wrote itself. So it's always different. But I think the one thing that all my friends in the music industry who work with me can attest to is I'm like the fastest writer. Like, I write super fast. When it comes to doing a song, I'm always like the guy who finishes first, and then I'm hanging out, maybe trying to help people with some bars for their joints. You know what I'm saying? So it's weird how it just like comes out of the ether for me. You know what I mean? It's that inspiration just hits me. It's like I'm channeling something. So that's how it's always been for me. And these words, I have to give the credit, though, to the way I write, to the guys who I studied. You know what I mean? I studied them so seriously. Other people listened to rap and other people liked it and they were fans of it, but I studied it to like the molecular level. I picked apart everything they said, why they put certain words together, the alliteration, the phonetics, all of these things. And that's why I write the way I do.
So next question, have you ever had writer's block, or worse yet, have you ever frozen on stage or forgot, lyrics in a battle?
Yeah, I've forgotten lyrics on stage at performances, but it's like I just kind of keep it moving. I'll either freestyle it or try to like bring it back or just joke with the crowd. It's never awkward for me. I like to joke with the crowd a lot. You know what I mean? Like I'm really personable and chill with the crowd. It's never like an awkward like, oh man, I da da da. I'm like, oh well, there goes that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or I'll freestyle off the top of the dome or something like that. But yeah, man, I've had writer's block like a long time ago, but I haven't had it in a very long time. It's just, I feel like if I don't feel like writing, I just don't write now. But there used to be writer's block back in the day, and it used to drive me insane. It was very frustrating.
How did you get out of it?
Stop writing. I would stop writing and just leave it alone and wait till it hit me. And I think listening to other rappers too would inspire me because, you know, I remember back in the 90s, there's this DJ Tony Touch, and Tony Touch had a 50 MCs mixtape. And every time I would listen, I would like pretend like, all right, imagine if I'm about to come in, what am I going to say to impress all these people? You know, so I think I use that mind frame to inspire me to want to impress people and say some fly. But that was like a long time ago. But I think just put the pen down. Like whenever I was dealing with writer's block, I would just stop writing and not force it.
It's good advice. The next question I have is about like best live moment. I mean, you've performed live all over the world for many years. I don't know how many, you know, live shows you've actually done, but do you have a best moment, you know, that comes to the top of your mind when you think about your best moment live and actually your worst moment live, maybe most embarrassing moment on stage?
Right. I think the best moment, it's tough to say, man. I've had so many highs and so many shows run into each other. I think when we started doing the big festivals in Europe and we would be performing in front of 50,000 people and we saw how many people knew the words to our records and how many people were going crazy. And I mean, when you see thousands of people who know the words to your song and they're moving their hands where you tell them to move and they're so excited, and you see tons and tons and tons and tons of fans wearing your shirt in the audience. That's like the high that I can't even, you know, describe it. It's unbelievable. But my worst moments on stage were accidents. You know what I'm saying? Like there was one moment, and I cringe at telling this, but I mean, it's you know, I didn't really know. But I remember we were in Salt Lake City and they had I was with Styles of Beyond, who were part of Fort Minor with Mike Shinoda in that. And we were rocking on stage and there was this barrier, like a big metal barrier. And everybody was in the front and I was really hype and I'm hyping everything up. And I saw a girl who I thought was sitting and I'm like, yo, what the are you doing sitting? I said, get up. I said, come on, get up. And I'm looking at her and pointing at her. And then I go near the barrier and she's in a wheelchair. And I was just like, no. When I tell you, I wish I could disintegrate. I wish I could have just vanished and disintegrated. She was super cool. And I spent some time chatting with her after. But holy, I had no idea. And I just wish that I could have detonated at that point because I just felt so terrible. But I just didn't know. And then, you know, it occurred to me later, like, why would somebody be sitting at a concert like that? You should have put that together. But I was just so hyped and caught in the moment on stage that I didn't realize that. And that was just a moment where I just wish oh my God.
Listen, the insensitivity of Apathy. I mean, you know, just insensitive. Now, like as mentioned, you know, you had some pretty awesome collaborations over the years. You know, what was your favorite? You know, you've worked with DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Nas, Snoop Dogg. Do you have a favorite collaboration?
Not like working with Premier, working with in that particular song with Pharoah Monch and Pete Rock together. Highlight of my career, absolute highlight. Like working with Snoop, dope, super dope. We weren't like in the studio like that, but I met Snoop on several occasions. And then when I wrote the record, it was through Scoop DeVille. We worked on the record and that record took a year to come to fruition. They didn't want to give any percentage. They didn't want to give any royalties. So we held our ground and said, well, forget it then. We're not trying to do it. So a year later, they came back and were like, all right, cool, we'll take the record. Working with Snoop was incredible. But DJ Premier, man, DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Pharoah Monch, all the guys from the 90s mean the absolute world to me. I'm more of a fan than the average fan. I'm a psycho. This is my religion. So even working with guys like the Legion, who are more obscure, who more people don't know, and Yag Fu Front, and also, even big groups like Hyro, like being down with those guys, it's literally my dream come true. Like it's beyond this hip hop thing is religion to me. Truly. I worship it. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. And working with those guys is the absolute pinnacle of anything. And it is also the reason why I believe manifestation must be real and manifesting your destiny must be real. There's no other explanation for it.
I agree with that. Are you a new real estate agent or thinking about getting a real estate license? If so, you're going to want to ask about the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. Why pay for the cost of the course yourself when the Greater Property Group will subsidize the cost for you? Make sure you reach out and get all the details on the Greater Property Group's Agent Scholarship Program. Okay, so who would be your dream collaboration today? Anyone you'd like to work with, like a bucket list project?
Right. Any of the Wu-Tang guys, man. I have not worked with any of the Wu-Tang guys. I'd love to work with Meth. I'd love to work with Ghostface. Other than that, I'd love to work with Nas. Nas will probably be my dream. I did kind of work with Nas. I did a remix for Nas that they wanted me to put a verse on, but it wasn't like I was in the studio and started something from scratch. I remixed the record with him and did a verse for them, which they paid me for. Nas, all of them, I got paid to do that with him. I wish I was in the studio and recorded it.
Yeah, I also noticed a lot of Canadian references or bars in your music. Why is that?
Canada is like my favorite place in the world, man. Like I'm in love with Canada. It's like a nicer, more pleasant version of America that's more calm. So when we started touring in Canada, at first, we didn't know what to make of it. And we're like, damn, yo, everybody's nice here. They're trying to play us out? Like, what is this? And then it just turns out everybody's just really cool as up there. We've done Canadian Cousins tour. We've done the Escape to Canada tour. We've done all of these tours. We've made tons of Canadian merch. I've made a lot of references in songs and shouted it out. I spent tons of time in Canada. I really, really love it there. And hopefully I'll end up there one day. You know what I'm saying? When I'm an older man, wind up and can't retire in Canada.
Super cool. We'd love to have you, App. Love to have you. What do you think's been the biggest contributor to your success or longevity in the game?
I think consistency. I think that I take this serious. I've never, ever, ever cut corners or just tried to hurry songs out. If you ask OC, who I've worked with, or you ask Self, they all know I'm like a tortured soul, maniac, psycho perfectionist. DJ Premier, who's my very good friend, told me that the two hardest people to work with in the industry because they're such wacko perfectionists are Kanye West and Apathy. DJ Premier said this. So I think that even though I don't know how to take that, I think it's a compliment, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just a perfectionist, man. So I think the consistency of me being like that, I think my fans have they know they're going to get something good, and I never let them down, I think.
Yep. And in the next question I have is, what advice would you give a newcomer or, a young guy trying to make, or a young girl trying to make a name in the hip hop game? What advice would you give them?
I would say work very hard, be consistent, and do it for the love. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen for you. Don't view this as I have to do this to blow up or else my life is over. I mean, it's lottery odds, man. It's not always about talent. Sometimes the planets have to align for you to arrive, and sometimes that doesn't always happen. I've met thousands of artists who have incredible songs, who have amazing stuff, and no one has ever heard them because it just wasn't meant to be. So I would say just hardcore, super hard work ethic, humility, and consistency, and just doing it for the love. Don't do it because you think it's going to be your meal ticket, because that's not going to work.
That's great advice. Now, tell us about your latest album, Where the River Meets the Sea. Can you tell us what inspired it and what it's about?
Absolutely. My life. Life hit me so hard around, like, my father got cancer. My father and I, very, very, very close. Like, he was my everything. And he got cancer, and he was dying. And it gave me massive anxiety. Around the time when I recorded my album, Honky Kong, it was like hell for me. It was hell. I couldn't leave. I was agoraphobic. If people watch the Check to Check video, doing that Check to Check video, me going outside and leaving my house, every moment that you're watching that video of me being out, I was like in pain. I could feel my molecules and my cells were just in pain because of the agoraphobia that I had. I was absolute hell. I felt terrible. At that time, my father was dying. It was accelerating pretty fast. And everything was messed up. And then I had pancreatitis and I almost died. 2012, I was in the hospital. I was in critical condition, missed my father's funeral. Then my wife and I got married. Then I had 2 kids. All of those things that happened in life were so profound to me. And I would just drive around thinking about stuff. I didn't get to go to my father's funeral. My father doesn't have a grave site. My father didn't get to see what my kids looked like. All of that was burning a hole in my soul and in my heart and in my brain. And I had to write it. I had to get it out. That's why I made those songs. And when I made that album, I realized I didn't want to make an album where every song was all doom and gloom about my dad dying and my kids being born. And so I tried to fill it up with stuff that matched. But those songs in particular, I had to get out those emotions because they were just bottled up and they were killing me. So writing that music and doing that was cathartic. You know, I mean, there's lines in there where I said, I swear to God that I'm crying while I'm writing this. How can a demon try to teach an angel righteousness? You know, I'm talking about my kids and all that stuff. Legit, I was leaking, writing that, just getting that out, getting that poison out. So that's what that album is about. And the title, The River, is your life. You know what I'm saying? Your lifespan. That's why that old song, Row, Row, Row Your Boat, people think that's a kid's song. That's a deep ass song, man. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, your stream of consciousness. Life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. We're here for a finite, small amount of time. So you have this river of consciousness, this river of light that you're traveling down, and then until you get to the sea, which is the vast expanse of infinity. You have your life to go down the stream, which is your time, and everybody's allotted that time in this life, and then it goes out to the vast expanse. And actually, literally right here out the window, I live where the Thames River dumps out into the Block Island Sound, into the Atlantic Ocean. So I live directly where the river meets the sea too. So that meant that as well.
Now, the other crazy thing about you is you're also a top producing real estate agent. How and why did you get into real estate?
Two reasons. First of all, when my wife and I were looking at homes, the real estate agents were so whack. And there was a multiple that we worked with. They weren't listening to us. They weren't giving us proper knowledge and education, that I was so confused during the process that I'm like, I don't know what the is going on, or what this is for, or what that is. And why are they springing this on me at this point in time? You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I could have done more research, but I'm a busy guy. So I'm like, wait a minute, closing costs? How do you figure these out? And what are they? Da, 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 da. And those were all that was sprung on me at the last minute. So I told my wife, I said, you know, I can't believe this industry sustains itself. This is unbelievable to me. I have a Larry David moment. I said, one day I'm going to be a realtor. I swear to God, I can do this. So, and you know, my partner and I with music, we run a very tight ship. We're very organized. We're very methodical people with how we've ran our independent label for so long. And the second part of wanting to become a realtor was him and I would do tours. We'd do these big tours and have these huge piles of cash. Then I'd make all this money, and then I'd come home and just whittle away at the pile, whittle away at the pile, whittle away at the pile. And I'm like, him and I both are like, we got to start investing our money. And we decided we don't really want to go the stock market route. You know, we don't want to go ham on stocks. So we decided after a long conversation, we're like, let's do real estate. And he's like, I'll fund certain stuff and blah, blah, blah. You get your license and you'll handle this and learn this and that. So we were going to, double team that operation like that. So I went and got my license. And as I'm going through the test and I didn't graduate high school. When I was going through the testing and when I was learning about everything, I was like, this is fantastic. And I'm so proud of myself that I'm actually doing this. Class was tough, man. I don't know if everybody felt like that, but learning all of that dumb minutia and all the dumb shit that doesn't really matter. And then when you get to the test, none of that shit, the year lead paint was banned is not in the test. And how many square feet are in an acre is not in the test. And nothing that makes sense is not in the test. So I'm like, God damn. And then when I finally passed, because I didn't pass the first time. And when I finally passed, I was like, this is incredible. And then I got into it. And when I finally started selling and I started being like, oh my God, I know what I'm doing. And I know that I'm doing it for the right reason because I'm helping people and I'm not trying to just have commission and just jack their money. I want to help these people. And I want to get them into a house that they have Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever with their kids in, and they have Thanksgiving and they have family over. That meant the world to me that I helped those people move into those homes that would be their life. And that meant all of the difference to me. And I remember telling self, I said, yo, we're still going to do investments, but I love this, man. I'm like in love with this. Like, this is it. I don't really even want to tour anymore. We're still going to tour, but I'm like, this is my new thing. This is how I felt about hip hop when I was a teenager. And that's where I'm at now. That's what I'm in love with now. I love talking about it. I love helping people. I love meeting other realtors. I love the whole process of it. And I think it's grossly underrated as an intimate connection from client to realtor.
Yeah, real estate can be a lot of fun, bro. What projects are you working on now?
I am working on an album with this producer named Stu Bangers, who is absolutely incredible. He's worked with some huge heavyweights, and he's a good friend of mine, been a good friend of mine for a long time. And we have an album with Jada on it, Black Thought. Incredible album. RJ Payne, self-titled, is on it. I have great guest appearances on it. So I'm going to be dropping that before the end of the year. I'm still doing music, but most importantly is I'm trying to build something to educate and inspire realtors, younger realtors. You know what I'm saying? Forming a collective that's going to form like Voltron or the Wu-Tang clan of realtors to inspire and give people a realistic. Here's what I hate, and I'll just be honest. I hate fluff, flexing, showing off, and arrogance from realtors. I hate creating a fake facade that is not realistic, that is not real for realtors, because younger realtors who are coming in lose sight of what is real and what they should be doing. So I am creating a space to educate, to talk with, and build with the younger realtors who want to come in and make this a great industry.
Very cool. Looking forward to those and looking forward to the new album. Is there a name for it yet?
Yeah, it's called King of Gods, No Second, which is an allusion to Amun-Ra, who is, the king of gods. There is no second, the number one.
Okay. And if you weren't a hip hop legend, a hip hop icon, Apathy, what would you have been?
Oceanography. I would do oceanography, or I would work with people with mental disorders and maybe people who, had, Down syndrome or something like that. Those are the things that I would do.
Here's one that'll make you think, App. Here's one that'll make you think. If you could have dinner with any three people in history, past or present, who would they be and why?
Mark Twain, because he was just a brilliant mind. He was really fascinating. Hilarious guy too, from what I gather. Yes, Manly P. Hall, because he was a brilliant, esoteric, outside the box thinker. And also Carl Sagan, because Carl Sagan is he's one of my favorites of all time. One of my favorite writers, one of my favorite, he's incredible. So I think those three guys would be pretty awesome. I mean, I feel like one lesson I've learned is a lot of entertainers will let you down. You know what I'm saying? And it's not always great to meet your heroes. So I think those guys are a pretty safe lineup of some people who I'd like to hear what they have to say.
That's a pretty interesting table. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Mine would be Kanye West, Donald Trump, and Apathy. That'd be my three.
I would be like, who the brought me here? Why am I here? Why am I here with these guys?
Yeah. Okay. Here's two questions left, App. Two questions. The first is, you're opening a bottle of champagne a year from now, celebrating something you've accomplished. What would that be?
Making $1 million a year.
In 1 year?
In 1 year.
Okay. All right. That's legit. Sometimes I ask people that question and they can't answer that. You know, it all comes down to goals. And now here's the final question. Have you thought about your place in hip hop or music history? Like, what's the legacy of App Bromley? Like, when all is said and done, what do you want to be remembered for?
Taking hip hop very seriously. Hip hop is not just something that's just fun to me. Hip hop is not, I want people to know how much I valued it and how much it meant to me. You know, hip hop is woven into the fabric of who I am. It is who I am. And it's everything to me. You know, I mean, hip hop is up there with my family and with everything else. It's everything that I've ever had. It's a majority of my memories. It's a majority of my motivation. It made it so I live the life that I do. It is everything. You know, hip hop is the glue and the fabric that has structured my life. Totally.
Incredible. App, my man, it was an absolute honor to get to know you better, hear your story, what inspires you, your creative process, as we talked about, and all that history of hip hop, right? And its current state as well. So that was a fun one for me, and I know our listeners and subscribers will like it too. They're going to really enjoy it. Love you, man. That was a fantastic interview.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you so much for everything, man.